Hi, welcome back to Fearful Harmony, where we talk about scary things sometimes. Today, our guest is a game developer of Unit Down, and previously, a lot of EXE games, most of which I've played quite a significant amount of your library at this point. Anyways, we've got the one, the only, Randy Becker. How you doing, Randy?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me along.
Yeah, of course. So you kind of want to talk a little bit about, like, what you do to those who might not know?
Yeah. Most of your fan base probably knows me as that EXE guy, but yeah, I make a lot of Nintendo EXEs, specifically Nintendo, because that's what I do.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? So, oh geez, almost 5 years ago now, I think. Like around when I was starting off, like Toad Bup kind of, I made a video about EXE games before I like did horror exclusively, and I talked about like your stuff at the time, and then I think I sent you a friend request on Game Jolt, and then you accepted it. Do you remember this at all?
I do vaguely remember that.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. Cause like I don't know, when you're a kid, like stuff like that, like little interactions, like oh my god, and then now I'm here just like talking to you. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I
This was
understand.
foreshadowed. This was foreshadowed a very long time ago. But yeah, what kind of got you into like developing games in general, and then what kind of got you into like EXE development specifically?
Well, actually, I was really into making games because my brother used to make games on old old stuff. It was all code based. It wasn't anything that you'd think is intriguing to look at nowadays. But it was really cool to see somehow these texts turning into images and then moving around the screen. I thought that was crazy. So he showed me a game maker program called quite literally Game Maker, and I was like, "This is awesome." So I dedicated most of my life to trying to figure out that program. I believe I was like 12 when I started. It's been a little bit. It's been a little bit. But the EXE aspect of it specifically, it was actually because of Luigi Kid.
Oh,
Surprise! I know, but like I came across this channel and I was just watching him play some. I'm gonna be very frank, bad EXE games, like some of the worst stuff I've ever
yeah,
seen.
no, definitely, it was rough back in the day.
I jumped into his comments and I was like, "Hey, I have like 10 years of experience making games, but I've never made a horror game. I wanna make one. I'm gonna make one." And he replied to it, and he said, "I want to see it." So if he didn't respond, I probably wouldn't have gone down this road, but that's what I ended up doing. I spent an exact week, 1 week, on making Past.EXE.
Oh, the Zelda one.
Yeah, that's my first EXE game I ever made, and I threw it his way, and there you go. that was what set the stone.
Yeah, you made like I think you made a Luigi Kid game too, didn't you? Like at
I've
some
made
point. I feel like I remember
Yes.
this.
I've actually made 2 fan games for him.
Two?
Yeah. One is Luigi Kid say, or sorry, I remember this. It's been a while. It's Luigi Kid defeats YouTube. I remember now. That was like the main one I did, and then I made an actual horror game for him, and I ended up rebranding that one into One Night at Luigi's, but it used to be One Night at Luigi Kids, once upon a time.
I don't remember which one I see. Were they both like 2D
Yes.
pixelated? Okay, all right. I can't remember which one I saw, but I feel like I remember seeing one way back in the day. I actually did have a certain question because I saw you talk or like said it earlier, like in the questions I asked. You're not like crazy familiar with EXE stuff anymore. As a fellow like member or past member or whatever you consider yourself of the EXE community, like what's your kind of like take on how it's gone? Kind of after Friday Night Funkin' like absolutely exploded this community. A lot of people, me included, were like, "Oh my god, things are resurfacing again. What's going on?" Like, how did you feel about all of that, even if you weren't exactly involved with it anymore as much?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I was really happy to see the community actually starting to pick up steam. I was afraid that I was going to have to stay in it as long as I had to in order to keep it going, and I was getting kind of worried. But I didn't. Everybody, it turns out there's a lot of talented individuals, and I think that technology has gotten to a point where it's more accessible, and I think that that's really awesome. Like, I know that there's might be a little bit of a elitist stuff out there that says no, that it's not fair that everybody can make a game now, but I think that it's making for a lot more creativity. There's more room for it, and I'm really, really happy to see it, because I've seen some really great stuff that's better than mine. I'm going to admit that. Like, there's some good stuff out there, and I've been trying to keep up with it. But no, it's really awesome to see.
No, I think a lot of like your okay, so I think I've talked about this a lot, but I'm a sucker for just like this certain style of 3D model. I've never been able to put like a name to it or like a genre to it. But I think it was in sorry, I played like 500 EXE games for one of my most recent videos. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Star Fox, the Star Fox one, like the face at like the very end of the game, that kind of like 3D model that almost gives off like that N64 promo art vibe. I see a lot of that in like your more recent EXE games, and I just absolutely love that, and I think that's where like a lot of your games like excel. I do still have a soft spot for a lot of the older ones though, because like that's what weird to say, that's what I grew up on.
You're not the first person to tell me that. Like, they're like, that's my childhood, by the way. And it's like, oh no.
How do you feel about that?
I'm definitely getting older. That's for sure. But no, it's cool. I do like that.
I talked with Luigi Kid about like how he felt about, cause I'll be honest, I'm considered like an old head in the community somehow, because I like have been into EXE games since I was like, when did Sonic.exe come out? Like 2013? Since I was like 11, right? And like I've pretty much seen the entirety of the genre like grow, completely die, and then like resurge. So like being able to talk with people who are like in the community and get their thoughts on like what's happened with it is just so interesting, because up until recently when I started like actually blowing up within the horror community, I had nobody to talk about to this stuff. Like my friends knew I was into like EXE games, stuff like that, but it was kind of just like a very niche, like guilty pleasure almost. I never like talked about ever. Yeah, no, but it's really cool being able to talk to like honestly veterans of the EXE community. I guess you could say. But you know, it's really interesting to see other people's perspectives on that stuff.
I agree. I mean, on that note, I know that this isn't part of your question, but somebody recently, so my partner also is an esports coach, and they were talking to one of their students, and their student was talking about EXE games, more specifically Luigi Kid. And it threw me off because I wasn't ready for this conversation or anything. And then, partner comes over and is like, hey, you need to talk to this guy really quick because I think they know your stuff. And I was like, oh, that's not what I expected today. But it's cool because that means that it's like it's a community big enough that I can come across that, that's really, really cool.
So what's like a memory you have kind of like developing those EXE games or like just being a part of the community that you kind of like really like think back on, or like one of your favorite memories, I guess?
Honestly, it's just the interaction with all of the people, seeing comments on things that I wouldn't otherwise see. I wasn't really known for anything. I've been making games for so many years that it wasn't until then that my name was actually relevant. So I think just the overall feeling of like, hey, I exist for a little bit, that's kind of cool. Luigi Kid definitely made that possible. It's actually because of him that I got a lot of connections and a lot of people that I know. Like the YouTube site, I know an abnormally large amount of YouTubers now, and I talk to them and everything. And it wouldn't have ever happened if it wasn't for this stuff. So it is very cool. And that would probably be the one thing I take out of it is just, hey, I know these people.
Yeah. I kind of like meeting people. Like I think I said a little earlier, like meet people's community. It's also very surreal because like Luigi Kid, like you, like so other people, talking with like Corpse Syndrome, the creator of like Mario the Music Box, all these stuff. These are names I just kind of knew as a kid. And almost in a way looked up to all these creators like in this very niche community. And I was crazy, just like these people know who I am too, and it's like it's weird and it's really strange. It's like no, you're not supposed to know who I am. Like I'm the fan here. But no, I'm definitely glad that like a lot of people from back when I would watch this content are still kind of like invested in the community, even with like a huge new wave. I feel like that kind of brought a lot of people back to it as well. It's like this huge new wave of popularity.
It's gotten weirdly large. I mean,
Oh yeah.
like I'm seeing videos and things on I'm gonna call it Twitter, but that's
That's
I've
fine.
seen it everywhere.
That's what I
I've
call it.
seen, yeah. It seems like it's popping up a lot. I'm getting tagged in things that I'm never expecting to be tagged in, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's still a thing, isn't it? That's cool, man.
Out of all the EXE games you made, which one do you think's your favorite? For whatever reason, just like nostalgia, quality, whatever.
I guess it'd be a tie between two, and for two different reasons. The first one being Star Fox, the one of the most recent ones I did, and that's only because I actually felt like I wanted to make that one, and that was out of my own, like, I want this, and it looked the way I wanted it to look.
Yeah.
Because it's not on the same level as like how much work I put into Dr. Mario.exe. I don't think I did a phenomenal job with that one by any means. That was my first Unity project I ever made. So I made I did a new, it was all completely new to me. I didn't know what I was doing with that program, but I figured it out. But my favorite one, probably Metroid.exe. And that is...
Wait. Okay, no, I was thinking of Super Metroid.exe. Sorry, continue.
No,
there's a
okay.
lot of them.
Yeah, I know that there's been a few extras and everything. The Metroid one, I just put a lot more polish into it. I don't feel like it was as easy to break or do something wrong, or it didn't follow as many of the cliches that I would normally throw into one of those. I gave you a way to attack, stuff like that. It's stuff that I would normally not do, and I think I appreciated the effort that I put into that one the most.
Yeah, I think my personal favorite, for purely nostalgia reasons and just like, I think it was one of the first games I saw of yours. It was either that or Dreamland. Was Nintendo.exe, the one where it was like the demo cart.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that was one of like the first times I had like seen something like that. Not one of the first EXE games, but like the only EXE games at that time I really had exposure to was like sonic.exe and like I hate you.exe, all that stuff. So I see this like, oh my god, this is like a compilation cart. There's like 4 different games in here. That blew my mind. But yeah, that one, and then I can't remember playing it, I'm gonna be honest, but I remember really liking Forgotten.exe, the Waluigi one, because
Oh,
I
wow.
played it and I was like, wait, this is like a game.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy. You're probably the first person to ever bring that game up, ever.
Really?
I spent 8 months working on that project. And I did all the art myself, did everything from scratch, and it was a crazy undertaking, and it is the least popular game I have under my belt.
I don't get it, because like I remember that being an actual game, because like this was at a time where EXE games were like just walking simulators.
Exactly.
Honestly, they still fall into that trope pretty hard. So it's nice seeing something with the EXE label that actually has some gameplay to it. Like, I don't know. I think that's one of my biggest like things I love about the new wave of EXE games, because a lot of them try to be games.
Yes.
But I remember playing Forgotten, and just like it was like a whole like, I think it was like the adventure, you go like left to right, and there was like puzzles and stuff, wasn't
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
Sorry, I played this like 5 years ago, so I can't remember.
But no, I mean, it's
very
been
well.
a fair
But-
amount of time.
No, what the heck? I actually recently, somebody reached out to me. They're working on a Mario horror like iceberg video. and they were asking if I had anything to add. This was, I don't remember when this was, like maybe a week ago. They were like, "Oh, any games or stuff you want to add?" And I put Forgotten on there. I was like,
Hey.
it's like, come on. I feel like that is an important game in the EXE history because it was a game and it was like wasn't a platformer. It's, I don't know. Everyone go play
Wow.
Forgotten. That
I
one's great.
appreciate that. That one, that is one of my pride and joys. I actually kind of forgot about it because it fell off the face of the earth, but I do appreciate that you brought
People
it
need
up.
their hyper realistic blood.
Yeah, they do. They do.
So I'll try to wrap up the EXE section here, but is there anything maybe you're working on that you could talk about regarding EXE games, or any
Um,
ideas you maybe have at least?
yeah, no, I do. I've been hinting at it a lot. I think you even mentioned it in one of your videos before, but yes, I have been playing with an F-Zero styled idea here.
Yes.
I've been thinking about it. I've actually got a fair amount of progress on it. It is a fully functional game as it stands right now. Um, Technically, it's an F-Zero game, but I'm going to transform it.
I
That's what I
love
usually
F-Zero. I'm
do.
here for it.
You'll find that it's pretty obvious what I do, but my whole intentions of making these EXE games was never really just to make a scary game, but it's that I really like the Super Nintendo, and I wanted to recreate certain games using it as authentically or as close to it as I could get, so the gameplay felt exactly like it, or at least you could pretend that it was without thinking too hard about it anyway. That's why all my games start the same way. If you on all my streams, if anybody ever watches any of them, generally speaking, whenever I'm doing the EXE games, I make the game, make all the mechanics, do everything that I'm trying to do to make the game feel like the actual original game. And my objective is just to make that first, and then I can turn it into a scary game afterward. I don't even think about the scary aspect until I know that my Mario's gonna feel like Mario and not, you know,
Yeah. What's
the
like the
other.
process of mimicking that like Super Nintendo 3D effect, or what's the card like the graphics card on there that would like make games 3D with like Star Fox, and I don't remember if F-Zero did it, but
You're probably talking about the FX chip.
yes,
At
that
least
was it.
for the Star Fox one, that is what that one was. No, that process is actually strangely simple. I just made a 3D model that is as close to a replica as I could. Couldn't find rips of it because it's not an actual 3D model. Strange, I know, but I had to make my own models and everything for that to make sure that it was as close to it as I could. And then you just basically put a bunch of filters and it's just shaders and just making it look like it's all pixelated and bad. But
So, I actually recently played a horror game called Kitty Kart 64, and what it does, I really like this. It takes a lot of inspiration from Mario Kart 64, and with the sprites, they do the same thing that that game did, where it's like 2D images of a 3D model. Is that kind of what the Super Nintendo did? Because I had no clue.
not for Star Fox, but for the F-Zero and other things like it, yes, that is exactly what they basically did. The N64 did it
Okay.
as well, at
Yeah.
least for like Mario Kart, but the Super Nintendo was definitely all sprite based. So
I know
whenever,
Donkey Kong Country did that as well, to like try and give the illusion of 3D without actually having to use 3D models.
right? No,
But
I would say the F-Zero one that I'm trying to replicate now, which is the Super Nintendo. It's just a flat plane. That's why all the walls don't stick up and everything. It's just a flat level. And then you just have a PNG basically on the screen that replicates where your character would be. And that is your character. It's just a sprite that's very well animated. And that's what I'm trying to replicate as we speak. And it looks pretty authentic, if I have to say so myself. But eventually it might become something. It's just, I chose a really difficult title to make scary. So
yeah. No, but I kind of commend this. Like I said, I will always have a soft spot, regardless of what people think of them, for EXE games. And honestly, as long as it's not like insanely oversaturated, which I mean, we've come close. 2019, 2020 was a dark time. I'm all here for it because I feel like you come up with some good original ideas. So, like some people might not like, but like I just appreciate when people do new things with like the EXE genre because we were stuck there for a while, and I feel like we're finally getting out of that.
well, I appreciate that.
So moving away from EXE games for a bit. Now, for people who are here just for EXE stuff, they may not know if they haven't followed you in the past couple of years, but you actually were working on a game called Unit Down. Want to talk a little
Yes.
bit about like what that is for people who might not know?
Actually, I've been that's an old project, but I started it probably 10 years ago. I actually started it before even doing the EXE stuff. If we go far enough back, and there's some stuff there, but no, that was my actual passion project. That's what I was working on, and that was what was going to be my big debut game, as I thought. I have a good soft spot for it. I mean, enough to where I'm going to make a sequel, but I don't. It didn't blow up because it's not an EXE game. I will mention. You can definitely tell where my fan base was. And I do appreciate everyone and everything, if anybody there is watching. But it definitely was noticeable, and that's actually, shockingly enough, that is the reason that I ended up getting out of the EXE community. I wanted to be more known for the projects that I wanted to make rather than the games that people knew me for. So unfortunately, I had to step away from that a little bit in order to focus a little bit better on those.
So I haven't really, because it's on Steam, right? Unit Down?
Yes, it is indeed on Steam.
Okay, I didn't. I was unaware. I thought it was just like game tool and stuff like that. That's really cool. I don't know why. Anytime someone gets something on Steam, that's just so unbelievably impressive to me. Cause like that's Steam.
Yeah.
What for like maybe people who are interested in playing it? Kind of like what's like the inspiration behind it? What's like the game kind of like? If you just want to give like a brief little description about it for anyone who's interested in playing.
Sure. Yeah. No. Absolutely. Basically, it's my passion project. I am a big fan of Star Fox. I think it's pretty evident in a lot of the things that I post. So if anybody follows me, they probably know. But definitely, I wanted to make like a Star Fox like clone, but more in the style of an arcade game. And that's what I set out to do, and I did it. So spent 9 years trying to decide where I wanted to go with it. Oddly enough, I don't know if you've seen any gameplay of it, but
I've seen a little.
okay, so basically, it's like an arcade shooter. I will tell you right now, over the course of the 10 years I was developing it, it did not start out that way. A lot of people who actually were following the project before remember it as a Mega Man clone. And that's actually why the design of the character looks very Mega Man-esque and everything. I designed it with the idea of it being that way. So people are like, oh, okay. But I ended up going from a Mega Man clone to a Metroidvania to a top-down strategy game. And then it finally ended up becoming a strategy game, a top-down isometric, where every time you fight, it goes into the battle screen that you guys are familiar with on the game now. And then I ended up scrapping all of that aspect and just doing pure, I don't know, arcade instead. It was the fun part. It was the part people liked, so we kept it at that instead. But it definitely has a weird history, and you would never know until you see the stuff in the past.
So how much of your previous work, maybe EXE or not, do you think like had its influence in Unit Down?
I mean, generally speaking, any game design is still practice. So,
Yeah.
Almost every EXE game I made was mostly for testing purposes of my own geek projects. So technically, I mean, like everything I make right now, I'm doing for example, the F-Zero. I'm not making the F-Zero thing because I just want to see if I can make F-Zero for the SNES. I am intending to use this code and or replicate it in my actual project that I'm working on now. And then this is kind of like an excuse to test the waters and see how I can do it and refine it while also still getting something out for the fans that are following me for the reasons that I am being followed.
So Unit Down is out, but currently, and you said you want to talk about this a little bit, you're developing a sequel called Unit Down Charge. How different is that going to be like compared to Unit Down? Is it going to be like more the same? Do you have like big plans for like new stuff you want to add into it?
Yeah, no, this one's a a dramatic change. So Unit Down 1, the first one, is actually made in Game Maker Studio. Despite it looking 3D, it uses all the tools and tricks to make it look like a 3D game that I could possibly muster. But this one is actually being run in Unity. Unit Down Charge is going to be a full 3D game. So it is, got a lot more depth involved in this one here for it. At the moment, it's actually significantly more successful. I did a lot more marketing, and I actually have a successful Kickstarter on it, so everything's actually working well for this one, and I can actually afford all the voice actors I wanted to actually afford. So this is a big project. This is my real passion project, and the one that I intend to hopefully bring to the Nintendo Switch.
Ooh, I'll definitely have to. Once again, it's the same thing with Steam. Hearing people bringing like games to, like actual consoles just like blows my mind.
If it's not obvious, I'm a big Nintendo fan, So it's definitely been like the childhood dream of mine to be having one of my games published on a Nintendo console. So that is my goal right now as we speak.
No, that's really exciting. Do you have like a time frame for when you think you're gonna have this out by? You're just kind of like a year.
I do have a set date. It's September 2025, so I do have that, and that's locked in a fancy little contract to make sure that all of my stuff is good. So I am going to guarantee a good product out by then.
So while we're wrapping up here, do you have any advice to any upcoming like game devs, maybe people who want to do similar things to you, whether it be EXE games or something similar like you're working on now, or just advice in general for people who want to make games?
Yeah, the easiest one of it is just get started. It's not as intimidating as it looks. Like like I was saying earlier before, there's a ton of tools out there. We're in an age where it's super accessible. Anybody can get started. You just have to have the drive. And I believe that everybody has the talent to do it as long as they want to do it.
All right. Well, that's all the time we got here. Do you have anything you want to promote? Social media? You want to talk about like a game page you got? You said it was something about like a Kickstart. Anything at all?
No, I mean, everything's all resolved. But I would love it if you guys go and check out Unit Down Charge. Just wishlist it. It helps the algorithm. Those robots need the numbers because reasons.
September 2025.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And moral of the story, play Super Nintendo games because they're really good. I'm actually playing Earthbound right now.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at it.